I loved your jacket.
Where is he? Oh, look at him, honestly.
Very jazzy.
It's a shirt.
It's a shirt.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, so cool. It's really cool.
Looks like a smoking jacket, you know.
I think the chair gives that impression. I feel I have to give a kind of, late night epilogue sitting in the chair.
You do. Right, off you go. Hi, Angela.
He was about to as well then.
Yeah.
Oh, did I interrupt that? So, Mumta is going to come on her phone. Is that right?
Yeah, she is. I think she's there, but there's no picture.
Okay. We can't hear her.
Can't hear her.
She's going to hear her now. She's just unmuted. You there, Mumta?
Yes, I am there.
Okay, great. Would you
Yeah.
be able to get visual or not?
I have got power. It'll take me like 10 minutes or so. I will be able to log in.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it happens in France, it all happens because people just walk in France. They just like, the postman will come in and just leave things on the back table, or they used to open the door and put them in the kitchen, that sort of thing. And then who came? The mayor came round this morning. It's like, oh my God, it's a new mayor. And but everybody owns bits of buildings around here. And there's a very tiny building next to my barn. And he suddenly thought, well, I might want to buy it because I live next door to it. So he was round for that. And then, oh goodness, it's just, and I have got some people coming to join me in person for the course that starts at the end of next week. So, crikey, I've got to get things, and one person's staying with me. I've got to get things like beds done and stuff like that. I'm not used to looking after people in person anymore. So it's been a bit, oh, and then my next door neighbour's in hospital, but somebody comes and looks after his garden. But he's got chickens. So he came around with a great big carton of eggs for me because there's just masses of eggs, they're just surplus. It's an amazing place to be, actually. It's quite very special. So learning. So some of you have sent some great things. I'm sure everybody's done great things. Some of you sent some great things. If I can get them. So Laura, where are you?
Hi.
Where are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't know where I am on your screen.
Yeah, but usually when you speak, you'd come up. Where are you?
She's on the screen too.
There's two.
Is she? Can't see it. There you are. Got you. Right. By the gin.
By
Right.
the gin, yes.
By the gin. So perhaps if you just explain what you sent to me while you're doing that, I will see if I can share it.
I think most of them may have seen it because we shared it on the WhatsApp group.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Are you talking about the walk that I did with my daughter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. I basically went out and I pretended to be my daughter for the morning.
Amazing. The matching outfits you've got as well.
Yeah, that's my 12-year-old's outfit.
Wow.
That grows into, and I don't know if you can see on there, but she's also made me put on a headband that matches hers.
Oh my goodness, how amazing.
Yeah, she was very excited by it.
By what?
By the fact that I was going to have to copy her.
Yeah.
So it started off quite like she was making me do things that, that she was thinking about.
Yes.
And then the walk went on, she forgot about that and she just went with it.
That's key. That's really key. Often when I do this as a physical exercise, I find that, the person who's leading will often think, what can I get them to do? And that's not the idea of it, as opposed to, and that's a skill in its own right, is to be able to be, no matter who's around you, and in fact, you've got somebody following you, is to be able to just be yourself and do what you want to do. And it's interesting how you put that frame of having somebody follow you on, and it changes somebody's choices, particularly if they are externally referenced. So yes, but eventually, and that's the value of time, is that, yeah, as you said, she forgot about that and just got into doing well. And great that you chose, or she chose, something that, you know, she would just be involved in.
Yes. Yeah.
So what would you say is the key learning that you took from that?
Sorry, you froze then?
What's the learning you would
Can you
say
repeat
you
the
took? Yeah, what was the key learning for you from that?
The key learning for me actually was massive. This morning I have actually run using my arms as well, because I realised that actually the more effort you put into it, the faster you can go, and actually more powerful the run is. So I think it's the fact that she just uses her whole body and mind to do whatever task she's doing.
Yeah.
We saw a bee on the floor that was pretty much dead on the walk, and she knelt down, like with her hands on her knees, to look at it, where I was, you know, I had stood up and was just bending my head over to look.
Yeah.
And then obviously I was following her, so then I took the same posture, and
Yeah.
it was like the detail that you get from that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing learning, and very freeing. It was great to be in her shoes.
Yeah, amazing. And lovely at many levels, like the fact that she loved you doing that as well. I think lovely that you chose to do it with her. So the fact you are getting into somebody's shoes is usually a great rapport builder, you know, great sort of connection in the way that you relate to each other, and you learn about them, and you learn, you know, we talk about people's unique maps of the world. You get their map of the world. Did you say something then? You froze then for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my connection keeps dropping, so I missed half of that. I'll try and connect to my phone while she carry on.
Okay, and I shared with you that, I don't know whether I can find the other one. Oh, this one. Let me see. Which was my granddaughter, which I think most people saw. Because I thought the way in which this is 6 years ago. Just fascinating that there's that delay while she's taking in what the other little girl's doing, and then with there's no like, well, my sense is no like, why is she doing that? Just do it, just do what the other's doing, and that intense kind of attention on the other to just, hey, this is what you do. This is what you do around this thing. That's pure modeling. That really is the embodiment, you know, of what it's about. That's why, for example, Vikram, you know, when you sent your beautiful presentation in, kind of the piece was missing, if you don't mind me commenting on that, was just like you getting into your wife's shoes, so that not only do you get the content, you know, the recipe, but you get her way. That's the emphasis, is her way of being and her way of doing things. I wondered if you've had a chance to do that since.
Sorry?
Have you had a chance to do that since?
After I did that?
To step into your wife's shoes and like...
No. Basically, the reason is that she's working, and she works around 12 hours because of the COVID situation. So she's not in that mental inner space. So yeah, I'm planning to do that.
Yes, that would be a beautiful supplement to what you actually did. You know, it's like to have, because you have this capacity to present things so beautifully, but then to have that piece of the modeling of your wife, and here's the output. I think that would be very special to experience that and for us to see that.
Sure, I'll do that.
Great. What else? Who else? Manisha, where are you? On the other screen, probably. Is she there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You shared some beautiful learning, which I thought really said something very special. Do you want to share that with the group?
Yes. Since everybody knows I was in India for 6 months, and basically because of my dad had like a mild stroke. And during the 6 months, just till the last days of leaving, I realized that not once did he ever complain about his health. He just went about doing it like that was a fact of life, with calmness and strength and determination. He came back to his normal self. And I did not, since I was there for 6 months, I really did not realize this till the last day when we were in a breakout session. And I had Fatin, Annette, and Mamta. And they were there, and we were talking about how mixed emotions I had about leaving him and coming back home. And when Fatin was questioning me, it came down to like just the inner self of like trust, which, I just had to realize it again. And after that session, I just went and sat down with him, and I just sat, and he just was sitting there. We were just sitting, he was watching TV, I was just there. And that calmness just resonated with me so much that even when I was leaving to go and say bye to him, and I was leaving for the airport, I was so calm that I just knew everything was okay. And I've come back and I yet feel that calmness in me, and I'm not anxious. And I don't know if it's just in the subconscious way that it played up on me, but I'm analyzing it now, and I'm thinking, I shouldn't, because this is just the way I should be, and I shouldn't doubt it. And I've never felt like this before when I was leaving him. It's amazing.
So I think you added the comment that kind of unconsciously, by being with him, you've taken on, a large part, or his way of being.
Yes.
Without even realizing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it highlights how important it is to choose who you hang out with.
And that's the longest I've been with him. I mean, he comes and visits us, but just me and him alone without any distractions. And I think during lockdown, it was just me and him. And it's amazing. I don't even want to question it or doubt it. I just feel great. Just at peace.
Have you shared that with him? Not that you should or shouldn't, but have you shared that with him?
My dad's a man of very few words. So if I even say that to him, he'll probably say, oh, that's just the way to be. I mean, I have never seen him. He's always so calm and composed. And this is the first, I used to wonder, like, my dad doesn't show all this emotion. How does he feel? Like, my mom was just so different. But that's just him. And it struck with me that that's the perfect way of being, with all the ups and downs.
Wow. So yeah. you have that.
Yes.
You're his legacy.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I always remember somebody I worked with when I first became independent. He used to give me incredible advice. It was a consultant I did a lot of work with. And he always said, it was kind of similar. He used to say, hitch yourself to a rising star, hang around good people. And it was very interesting advice, because you said you're going to get what they've got just by being with them over time. And that very much illustrates that. He also said that, because we used to do these programs together and we'd have guest managers, and some of them were atrocious. And he always used to say, you can learn from anything. So, even if they're bad, you'll learn what not to do. So he gave a lot of wisdom, a bit like Kevin. So other learnings anybody would like to share? Hi, Mumta, I can see you now.
Hi, so yeah, Paul is back, so.
Great, thank you for managing that. Any key learnings you'd share, Faten? You were full on before we started. She was like a machine gun with questions before the whole group joined. What was your learning from modelling yesterday?
I promise you that I will keep silent once everyone joins. Yes, so yesterday I had the honor to model Sue, and I learned a lot. So what shall I share? What did I learn?
Yes.
Yeah, I learned to just have a conversation, literally, to just have a conversation. And from that, being present is key. And the way Sue does things, the untraditional ways, is something that I'm modeling because that's what came up in our conversation. And that's recorded, so I'm so happy to have that. And yeah, I stepped into that wholeheartedly and at the same time full presence. Yeah, I'm so excited to start writing my project.
I think that was a good example of how what you discovered that you might want to model further emerged. It emerged in the conversation. And that's how it typically happens, that you don't know, ideally, at the start of an engagement with somebody, what it is that makes a difference. You have this sense that there's something there that you want. And what it might be starts to unfold as you engage with them. So you didn't have that word of non-traditional when we started. You had much more different words. Success.
The bad word. You know, after I closed, I was thinking, and I was like, why didn't I use the word excellence? Maybe that resonated with her more.
No.
But yeah.
So Faten said, I want to model success. And she said, what do I mean by success? And I said, that's not what matters here. It's what you mean by success, because you're modeling. However, by giving something a label, you know, I couldn't relate to that label. And yeah, I know you persisted in using it, but it never did resonate for me. It's best not to label for that reason. You know, you know what you're after, but you don't have to give it a name, because the name's not going to mean the same thing to the person that you're modeling as it does to you. And then it can give you a bit of a, you know, a sort of issue. How do you have to explain that? And very often the person will not necessarily see that in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great learning.
And the other thing was, you know, finding new language when you're looking and discovering new things, find a new vocabulary. Success and teamwork and project and action centered, they're all pretty tedious things, aren't they, really? They're all like hackneyed phrases, as we say. So it's like, find a new language, like Mark did, you know, with the bread. You know, well, I'm not familiar with other bread makers, but talking about persuading flour into the dough, you know, like that's fascinating. You know, what does that mean? But thank you, and thank you, Faten.
And thank you. Yeah.
So Angela, I'm coming to you. I was curious, any reflections that you had on your experience with the group yesterday?
I've been thinking about it ever since, to be honest. I've been thinking about, I was thinking about your question. Can you hear me?
Yes, it got a bit loud. It's very quiet.
Faten's question to me yesterday. You said, you asked me why I laughed when you asked me a question. And I said, I was stumped. And you said, what does stumped mean for you? And I was thinking about that again today. I was just thinking about the questions that were asked and that how they really got me to think about things look at them from another way, because I'm used to answering questions about what I do, but not really answer them. And I think that's because I haven't really been asked, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to really kind of know. And so yesterday I felt, oh, okay, this is actually, how am I going to, anyway. So, yes, I found it really useful. It's helped me refocus myself a little bit. And I don't know if it was a result of it, but yesterday I felt a lot more relaxed, and I was really playful and silly with my family. I mean, I am a little bit anyway, but even more so. I come from, my family's a blended family, so I'm a step parent, and often that can be a bit challenging. And I felt a lot more relaxed yesterday. I think it was because after spending that time with you, I felt elevated. I felt like my work or my approach was heard, and that I was seen. And I think that relieved the pressure from feeling like I had to assert certain things in my household, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, I think definitely when you're listened to and heard, and your work is kind of appreciated, not because it has to be, because we all have that thing of thinking that the people around us who love us say, oh, that's brilliant, because they love us. And as an artist, you're always going, yeah, but do you really like it? Or do you like it because of me?
Yes.
Anyways, so yeah, I thought it was really helpful. I really enjoyed the questions, and I've been drawing a lot of parallels to theatre and what you've been talking about and asking. And I guess the two are intrinsically linked.
In what way linked?
Because we're talking about what makes people, what makes a character, who are we really? Right. And when you're approaching a character or creating a character, if you're, in theatre, if you're doing it in a certain method, you ask the same questions, and there's an exercise that I do with my students where I ask them to carefully, I say to them, go to a playground outside if you don't have access to children in your house, and just because that would be a little bit weird, and just watch them play. Watch how kids play, watch how they interact with each other, watch how they move, and how I think Laura was saying how her daughter, she uses her whole body to look at something, and that's what kids do. They don't have inhibitions. They're all over the place. They're like everything, every particle of them.
Yes.
Until they start growing up, and we start going, don't fling your arms out like that, don't move your legs like that, keep yourself together, keep yourself smaller, don't draw attention. And that's when they start losing it. So I have my students or actors that I work with observe kids. I make them do it so they can see the difference. So anyway, I've just been thinking about non-stop about all these things.
They're very, in my word, very rich thoughts that you have, and very interesting way of sharing them as well. I like a lot of things that you said there, everything that you said there, like saying you didn't really answer because you haven't been really asked. I think it's such a significant thing that you said in that.
Yeah, it was significant to discover as well.
Yes.
It's, to kind of feel that, oh, there is a difference, and we don't fall into it's about patterns of behavior, isn't it? We have these patterns of behavior. People ask you something, you answer, and most of the time I'm answering a default answer, something I've thought about, something I know the answer to. And yesterday I felt like, no, you're not going to get away with that so easily. What do you really mean? Exactly. And that was good. It was good to kind of go, oh yeah, what do I mean? What am I saying? Where is this coming from? This is great. Oh wow.
You talk about getting in language, I talk about getting from the surface to the deep structure, the truth, the deep truth for somebody, which they may not have expressed for themselves before either. So that's fantastic to hear you describing you having that experience. And thinking about Laura as well, and you said you send people to observe the children, and Laura went a step further and she just went with them. You just did.
That's brilliant. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to get them to do the same thing, though I have to warn them not to do that in a playground.
Yes. When I
it was exhausting.
Sorry?
It was exhausting. I've never been so puffed out after a dog walk.
It's delightful though. It's interesting what you're saying about people restricting movement as well. One of the things that I've studied for a long time is a whole process called, well, it's awareness through movement. It's called Feldenkrais.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that people forget, you know, that they can use their whole body even to turn around and look at something, that they just look with the neck up, perhaps as an example, and things start to get stuck. And that ability to relearn that flexibility and to be able to get that from children is
absolutely. And and even as simple as looking at how a child gets up. So one exercise that we do is using as little tension as possible in your body to move. Yeah. And then if you apply that, I mean, this is what I've been thinking about since yesterday. Yeah. What if you applied that learning to the way we do anything, not just physically move? And this is what you're doing. Yes. So these were the things that I was going.
So it's suggesting that you know, everybody has at least 3 exemplars of whatever it is they're seeking to study and get for themselves, so that you can compare and contrast and eliminate the redundant bits, so that what you arrive at is the most efficient way of getting to that result. So there'll be bits that people do, they get great results. There'll be bits that they do that aren't necessary. So it's like, for example, if you watch Rafa Nadal playing tennis and the way he serves, he's got this incredibly complex build-up to serving the ball, which has developed over time. You know, so he does an incredible number of bounces, pulls his shorts off, whatever else. And yet within that, he's got this capacity to hit this ball. So a lot of that is potentially redundant, even though it's not for him currently, because he's so attached to that process. So in the comparing and contrasting, what you're doing is looking for, well, what are the bits that everybody doesn't have? And what are the bits that everybody does have that are kind of essential pieces to achieve this result, so that you arrive at the most efficient model. Same with Feldenkrais, that's what you're doing, is like getting up from the floor. You know, there is a way to use ourselves so that you work with who you are and the weight of your body. Most people don't do that. Most people give themselves, most people do far more work for anything than they need to do in life. Life is a lot simpler than most people make it. But I had to get to the age of 70 before I realized that. Whoops, getting software upgrade, don't want that right now. Right, thank you. Jackie.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Jackie, have you had reflections since you joined us?
Yeah, the thing that you did with me when I was saying about how long have I got left and all of that, and you said, what is the opportunity now? I've been very conscious that I either go backwards or go forwards, and I'm very rarely in the now.
Right.
And I've been trying to catch myself when I'm going forwards or go backwards, and more purposefully.
So have you been trying to catch yourself when you've been present as well?
And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But yeah, I have caught myself.
Because the principle is that if you measure, if you like, I'll call it measure for them. If you measure the problem state's what you get. So that a lot of people and a lot of companies do this. They measure what they don't want. They measure a reduction in complaints. They measure scrap. They measure But actually, you ask how many companies measure compliments, for example. So for you, for example, the other choice is, instead of trying to catch yourself when you are in the past or in the future. It presupposes you're going to continue to be in the past and in the future, which of course you will be to some extent. Catch yourself when you're being present and dwell on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Measure what you measure is what you get. Where you put your attention is what happens.
That's really useful. Thanks, Sue.
And you've just changed in the way that you're speaking.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yep, I should hope so. Well, if it works, that's the key.
Yeah.
Okay, other things too. Well, Marina's submitted her project, so the rest of you eat your heart out. Where is she? I know, incredible. I think you're on screen too, Marina, but honestly, that's quite astonishing. Carolyn, you had a very interesting thoughts about that.
I thought it was absolutely phenomenal what you've done in the time. And Sue forwarded it to me. Marina's done it. And what I actually thought was, oh my gosh, the thing that you have modelled, you obviously had in spadefuls for that project.
Which was?
Focus.
Focus. So you're modelling focus and you've got it. And that's how it is. It's like you're studying something which you have already got, but don't realise it. It's a bit like the book, The Alchemist, you know, search all over the world for something and actually it's right there, right with you all the time. Do you want to say something else about your experience of submitting your project as well, Carolyn?
Yeah. Okay, well, my project, I started it a few years ago, wasn't it? From when I actually submitted, and it was how to complete. So that in itself tells you, so I started it several times, got distracted and so on. However, I did submit it to Sue, and what I had done was very much narrate the process that I'd gone through. And I documented it in chronological order. So Sue came back and said it was linear, and I had no clue what she meant by that. So we had
and she didn't ask me either.
I didn't initially. I did eventually.
You did. You did eventually.
So, yeah, and so I had shown Sue a draft, but it was in my head at that time. It was almost completed. And the reality was it was nowhere near completed because it was as I say, it was a narration of the process that I had gone through, and I recognise now I just hadn't got what modelling truly was at that point. I described it, and I described what was important to me and why I'd chosen the models and so on. However, I hadn't got. But I didn't recognise that at that time. It took, I think I ended up submitting it about 3-4 times in the end, because I knew then that if I wrote a piece and submitted it to Sue, I'd get feedback back, and really helpful. So a big lesson was, you know, I submitted it at sort of volume-wise, probably about 80% of it done. I could have submitted it at 20% done and got the feedback at that point. You know, learning.
To be in a tote.
To be in a tote.
Put it out there, get feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? And so, yeah, then I went to India, and one of the people that I'd modelled, I'd met in India previously, and I re-met him. And Sue gave me 15 minutes. Because I'll never forget, my stomach just went straight to my mouth, and I turned the colour of this jumper and said, I'd like you to present your model in 15 minutes. And I had no sense at that point. And that was a real turning point for me, because I thought, oh my God, that's the point of it, is to be able to share the actual model. So anyway, and I realised at that point, I'd really described myself rather than written it in a way that I could convey a model for a start. However, anyway, I did. And Ramesh was there too. Don't know if you noticed that I turned this colour as well in the 15 minutes. And I came up with something. Varun was there as well. And I just did what I did and got feedback. And the feedback, and that was a tipping point. That was the moment I thought, actually, I know now this isn't what I've done is process, what I've done is narration. I hadn't got. So I went back home, and I didn't start again, but I just refreshed, refined, adjusted, and so on.
Yeah.
Reordered.
And here she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you may hear some of that. It's still whether you actually get it. It's another matter. I think we tend to get things when we do them. Like Carolyn was saying, it was in the process of presenting the model to others that they got it, that kind of the learning came then. We can say these things. Actually, how do you get them? I'm just curious, any reactions to what Carolyn's just shared, or questions? She said some very key things there. Apart from stunning everybody, thinking like, "Oh, what are we in for?" Because it's very yes, Karen.
Karen, what was your learning?
Gosh, what was my learning? Oh, so much. Oh gosh. So my own filters for a start. And I realised that I was putting everything through my own filters. So I'm, I prefer procedure for many things. I was putting everything through that procedural filter. What else? There was so much actually, because when I then went back and remodeled Satish, was much more present and actually putting myself in his shoes. And previously, I'd looked for the sameness in ourselves, and this time I just looked at looked and heard and sensed what was. So that was quite different. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was in India. So was it his environment? It was more his environment than this kind of, and that wasn't the only difference. It's hard to put tangible words to it. Just being him, or as much as I possibly could be. And it continued outside the conversation. So he gave me a lift back to the hotel on the scooter. And what I didn't realise until I was in the hotel, actually, I'd still been modelling him as we were getting on the scooter and just being on. I'd never been on a scooter like that in India. I'm a puff, and it was dark and it was night and the roads are crazy. If anybody's been there, no helmet, nothing. It was just and he was like that. He was just in a shirt and very relaxed. And I thought, right, okay. His physiology, and it was when I got back, I thought, I remember getting into his physiology to just relax, enjoy it. He was pointing out things, and that was quite different to the procedural me.
Yeah, the Scottish procedural you.
Yep. Who does like adventure, I have to say. So, however,
so where's Marina?
Rebecca wanted to ask. She put her hand up.
Sorry?
Rebecca put her hand up.
Who put the hand up?
Rebecca.
Yes, Rebecca. Sorry, you're down at the bottom of my screen. I must remember to scan that.
It was just to say that what I took from what you said there, Carolyn, was to put into practice the tote, and that I was already sort of thinking about the feedback along the way, and not just to my natural instinct would be to write it all send it to Sue. Whereas I was going, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a little bit, send it, test it, you know, get some feedback and do it that way. So that's definitely resonated with me. Thank you.
Because I don't know anybody that's just written in it and it's ticked all the boxes for the criteria. So you're better off going, here's a skeleton, which is, you know, it's what you do with writing a book. A publisher will ask for a skeleton, and they'll ask for, you know, well, what are the ideas that you've got in these sections? Not typically to send a whole book, not if you've been commissioned to do a book. Some people might do that if they've written independently. So that way you can get guidance along the way. And it's where the learning lies very typically. So you might be thinking, oh, it'd be great to get this done and get this off, but actually this is really the start of the journey, is when you start this. You'll get real sort of feedback about the choices that you're making. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, for Carolyn to realize she presented this very procedurally. For one thing, I'm not very procedural, so it's like but that wasn't the reason. That, you know, NLP is very results oriented, outcome oriented, and so to present the model's what's important. And it's interesting how often that gets lost in the whole write-up. You know, and people talk about what they did and how they went about it, and, you know, it would be like coming up with the vaccine for you know, COVID, and going, well, what we're doing is this, which is what some people are doing. What we're doing is this is research that we're doing, and actually we did develop a vaccine, but they don't forget to tell you that bit. It would be a bit like that, really. So NLP is very outcome oriented, and much writing today is, if you pick up a lot of modern books, they don't start like, you know, A Tale of Two Cities. They start with the end result. They put you straight into action. Many books do that, put you straight into the action, and then it kind of unfolds, and is, you know, the kind of layers are peeled away for you to discover what's happening. That's a very typical kind of contemporary style, and that really fits with NLP and outcome thinking. How you went about it is Jess, is very interesting to know, you know, how you've gone about the modeling. The key piece is the model, and how it works for you, and then how you've taught it to other people and how it works for them. So, any other questions? Or Pauline, you had an interesting tilt of the head there.
Because I was, I guess my question is, so I understand the principle of modeling and, you know, understanding, you know, the excellence that you can see. And it's an and, not a but okay. And so I understand the being able to share, I can't remember the word you used, Carolyn, but to explain the model. Is there also something about our own learning or growth in that? Is that what you're looking to see, or, you know, just the principle?
Looking to see that you've derived a model from the study that you've done, and that you've applied it to yourself in such a way that you can replicate the effect that you admired or valued or were seeking in the first place.
Okay.
And that you can replicate it with consistency, and that you can teach that to other people so that they can replicate that result.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
helpful. Thank you.
That's fundamentally basically it.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? So one of the things that I did when Sue said that to me, and it was pretty much exactly those words, I then gave my model to somebody else that I know and asked them to do it with someone that they knew and feed back to me. And that was invaluable, because then they had to, but it kicked up all sorts of stuff.
That was a nice abstract description, the last bit.
Oh, because
that's like, yeah.
It was real learn. That was real learning, proper learning. I would say.
Yes. Yeah, the feedback is key in all of that.
So
the idea is that you've learned something you were after learning in the first, which you probably have got unconsciously, but you're making it conscious so that you can get this result, this effect consistently, consciously.
Yeah, really.
And then enable other people to do the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what do you reckon, Carolyn? I think exam time.
Okay. Exam time then.
Exam time. So
will I write the questions in the chat as you say them?
Yeah, you write the questions, and then you guys, Angela, you can do what you wish with this, and you might be able. I'm sure you can answer these questions. So you don't. So Carolyn will write the questions down in the chat as I say them. You number those questions correspondingly and answer them. So I'll give you just a little brief time to answer each question as we go along. Okay. Ready? And then we'll mark it. So, question 1. Varun, you know. You've got that real, I know what's going to happen here. So, question 1. It's called gloating. Question 1 is, what was your reaction when I announced that just now?
Sorry, are we writing these on our paper or on the computer or in the chat?
On your paper. Okay. What's going on for you, Sarah?
I'm actually quite surprised by my answer.
Right. Oh, brilliant. Well, that could be question number 2. And what's your reaction to the answer that you've just written down?
That'll be this.
Great. But that's a genuine question. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there it goes. Question 3. In a nutshell, so to speak, what is NLP? Oh, all sorts of things coming up here. Question 4. Give an example of 2 of 3 of the filters, what's called the meta programs. What's an example of 3 filters, 3 different filters? Question 5. Can you give an example of, in language, of cause effect? Question 6. If you look at the screen, look to the person to your right on the screen, whoever is on your right. If you haven't got somebody on the right, look to the left. Where do they live? Where are they right now? And what do they do? Can't ask you to say their name because all the names are up. So that's
Sorry, Sue, to the right or the left should we look, did you say?
To the right initially, and if you haven't got somebody to the right, look to the left. Question 7. Where exactly do I live in France? When we do the program live, I ask people, where are they geographically in India? When I've done it in India, it's amazing people don't know. They don't know where they are. I've been that place myself in the past, but it's very interesting. They don't know which sea they're next to or whatever. Question 8. What is one of the most significant learnings that you would say you've had on this program so far? Question 9. What are the elements, all the bits of a clean question? Basically, what's the structure of a clean question? Question 10. Oh, change my mind. When did you last really fully laugh at yourself, and what triggered it? Look at Joanna. It's like, question 11. What do you think are the most significant attributes to have to be able to model successfully?
Successfully.
What's that now? What's that? What did you just do? When did you last make a point to somebody? Successfully. Yes, it's not success. Well spotted, Fatima. You get a bonus point for that. You get a star. And 12. Can you name all the guests that we've had on this program? There's 2 easy answers for that. The rest. Would you like to add a question, Carolyn? Okay, there's Carolyn's question. What are 2 of the beliefs of excellence? Kevin, would you like to add a question? Wait for it.
Yeah. What are you like?
Are you talking to me? That's a very Scouse thing. What are you like?
Yeah, I meant it in the Scouse sense.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but they can take it however they want.
Okay.
And also it's like an Irish insult. You know, what do you like?
What do you like?
Get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, you can
Well,
take
yes,
it that way if you like.
What you like.
Yeah, you can take it that way if you like, Pauline.
And Mumta, would you like to ask a question? So make that 114, Carolyn, that Kevin's given. You have a question, Mumta?
Yes, I'm typing.
Okay. You can say it while you're typing.
How do you represent time?
Right. Okay. So let's pause there. So Carolyn's going to put you into groups of about 4 people, Carolyn.
Can you make me host them?
Yeah.
So that I can do that. Thanks.
And in your group, you're going to agree the answer to each of those questions. Well, some of them will be unique. You'll hear the answers to people. And where they're more like slightly technical questions, you can agree the answer. So basically you mark each other's papers. You have to give a judgment to the reactions, like what was your reaction when I announced the exam? So was it the reaction that you would choose to have? So you can make a decision about that as to how you mark that. So you're going to effectively give an assessment to each person in your group on the answers that they've given. And you have 15 minutes.
Okay, some of the groups are groups of 3. Is that okay?
That's good, yeah, that's good.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want Kevin and Mumta to go in and?
We might just pop them in, I think. If you don't mind being popped, Kevin and Mumta.
Okay.
Best offer I've had all week.
You need to move around a bit.
Open the rooms. Do you want to stop recording, Sue?
Oh, damn it, I was... Right. Hope you didn't feed them all the answers, Ramesh and Doreen. The question is, Ramesh, do you know the name of the hamlet and the village where I live in France?
He did.
Oh,
He did.
how do you
He
know
did.
he's right? How do you know he's right though, Jackie?
I was in his group.
Sorry?
I was in his group.
Yeah, but you don't know whether he was lying.
He said it with confidence.
Oh, yeah, but he's modelled that. What did he say then?
He said Bertilac. I knew Dordogne, but he knew specifically it was Bertilac.
Bertillac.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. But actually, I'm in a little hamlet outside of Bertillac. Did you know that?
No.
Do you know that, Ramesh?
Can you write
Yes,
that
Sue.
down, Sue?
Yes, I do know. You're on the a little out from Vertiac.
That's true, which is
You're
called...
you're just on the border, on the signboard of Vertiac.
Yes, that wasn't the question, though. The question is, what's it called?
You said Hamlet.
A hamlet is a name of like a place with a few houses in it. But what's it called?
The name of your house.
Universe.
No, the house. My house isn't actually named anything specifically. The hamlet is named something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, while Ramesh is thinking, how was that? The sharing of the learning. How was that for you, Pauline? Hang on, you're unmuted now. Still can't hear you.
Now.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
My microphone switches on and off. It's very sensitive. But yes, really good. Interesting because, you know, we all have slightly different answers, you know, but they're all, none is wrong as such. So yeah, it was nice. And strangely, we had all had Claire as the person on the right of our screen.
Oh, did you? How
so that was good.
Amazing. Claire, you're everybody's right-hand woman. But did you know, though, where she is?
Yes, and what she did.
Ah.
So it was
Bingo.
good.
Amazing. Yeah, it's interesting, this dynamic on the screen. Other experiences? How's that for you, Sarah?
Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah. Most of the answers were very similar, but you know, just a few odd difference in choice of words that we'd used. But yeah, it was really interesting.
Interesting in what way?
Interesting in that we none of us were fearful when you said, "Oh, we're going to have an exam." We were all kind of slightly surprised, but bemused, but in a good way.
So if I said,
You know,
now I want you to present your model, would that create fear?
no, it's
you're bound.
Hysteria.
Hysteria.
Yeah, maybe no, it wasn't too fine.
But that is a key thing, you know. It's like, because words like examination and presentation have got such not always good associations for people, and to be able to reframe that. Because I've had people just not believe me when I've said examination, and they said, well, you don't do that, you know, it's not possible. And then realized, yeah, I meant it, but not quite the way that perhaps they'd originally expected it. So that's great.
Good. Enjoyed it.
How is it for you, Vaughan? You've been in my groups before, so.
Yeah, I was usually, if someone said exam or presentation, I probably would have fainted probably, but when you said that, I felt it was going to be fun and curious. That was my immediate reaction.
Right.
Yeah, it was nice.
It's interesting.
So I was surprised at myself.
Right. It's interesting.
Because the trust that is in the group, I guess, and you, I don't think it's going to be like what maybe I've experienced as an exam or.
So for Fatten, non-traditional.
Non-traditional.
I said that's Sue, the typical Sue. I said that's Sue, playful, typical Sue. So that was my immediate reaction, playfulness.
Well, the whole thing of NLP is about reconnecting with our natural ability to learn. Whereas I think, unfortunately, en route with some traditional learning methods, people have fear associated with exams and the pressure of learning, and it's very unfortunate, I think, that's what develops when it's, I think the best way we can do anything is lightly and often, not always, but with fun. Yeah, it's the natural way to learn.
2 thumbs up.
And that is what, that really is what NLP is about. So your ability to take situations and respond to them in the way that you choose, in a way that serves you best, to be able to learn in a way that is fluent, that is easy. That's really what it's about. To be able to, I mean, what did people say as, what were the qualities, the attributes that were best served you to be able to model people? What did you have? What did you put for that?
Curiosity, for one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And another, Sarah?
Just not to apply your own filters or presuppose anything.
Yeah.
To start from a blank sheet of paper or a blank canvas.
Absolutely. So to kind of be naively neutral, blank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Naively curious.
Which is what was it Laura was saying before, and going on that walking in the moccasins. What did you say? You said you kind of alluded to that, Laura, when you were talking. What did you say? That you. Oh well, no, it was about your daughter, wasn't it? That she'd gone kind of in a mold of expecting things to be a certain way, and then she just became herself. I think that was what made me think about that. And that's the key. So the technical elements are clean questions, filters, language patterns. If you're coming from a place of curiosity and that ability to empty yourself, to be naive and sincerely interested, then that's the state in which to model. And there are techniques that will help you with that. But it's the state and the attitude that's more important than everything else. The techniques add polish to that, but if you've got the techniques, not the attitude, it doesn't really work. It'll just, the techniques will absolutely get in the way. So, how about you, James? What was a key point for you in that?
Point for me was really that actually we do apply our own filters to lots of these things, don't we?
Yeah.
And it was quite amusing actually in terms of some of the responses to the questions. We could have got very hung up on them. It was like, even like, where does Sue live? Well, in a house in a village.
Yes.
Like that, you know? It was, yeah, it was just fascinating that even with the definition of NLP, we sort of again applied some of our own filters to our definition and thinking about, well, what is NLP doing for me? And therefore that's the way I respond.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so to be able to be aware of those, and then at times be able to let go of those is key.
Yeah.
Awareness, is it, well, Moshe Feldenkrais said, you know, if you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. And I think that's and with the more, if you like, detail, more specificity we have with knowing what we're doing, the more we can do what we want. Awareness is the key.
Yeah.
Okay, so conscious we've just got about 5 minutes. Carolyn, you're going to brief the group on the final step for today.
Okay, so we're going to break it up into groups, 4 different groups, and the purpose is so that you have support and you can support each other through your modelling projects. So in my kind of intellectual corporate land, might be called action learning sets or peer groups or whatever, but so I can't help myself. But the purpose is to support each other through the modelling project.
In fact, didn't we say you can invent a new, very non-traditional name and word for what you call your group?
We did. We absolutely did. So, and so what I would suggest is, you know, as you're drafting something, maybe share it, or if you've got ideas, share it. And, you know, if you can imagine, if 26 people all saying Sue, a first draft, you're going to get a much quicker response if you share it with each other first. And equally, if you do get feedback, sharing that feedback, because there'll be real learning in the feedback that comes, you know, for each of you as well. So, and you know, from my own experience, I'm part of a number of groups that have met people on programs like this, and the learning is just phenomenal. You know, we encourage each other, we support each other. Somebody learns something, they share that, so on, and it's been absolutely, you know, priceless. So there's 4 different groups. There's about 5 or 6 people in each, and in the group that Marina is in, Farah will be in that as well. So if we're doing it again tomorrow, Farah, who's not here today, will be in that group as well. Okay, so how long?
And you're taking account of time zones as well, so that as far as possible, you'll be people in a similar or close time zone. So like not Canada with India, unless you have a particular wish to connect.
Yeah, and absolutely, you know, and if you guys decide amongst yourselves that you want to be in particular groups, that's up to you guys. And
so in the group, you agree how you're going to connect with each other, which might be through Zoom meetings, but you share your contact details, whatever form you think will work for you. So we'll let you manage the setting up of that and the unusual name that you give yourselves.
As well.
So that's just agreeing the setup of that for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to stop recording, Sue?
Thank you. Hey, Carolyn, what happens that Kevin's taken a... He's usurping the role. Goodness me.
Mr. Procedure.
Be careful, Kevin. You might take on responsibility here. Hang around us long enough and crumbs. Lakshmi. Anyway, we're going to leave you with, of course, some of Kevin's tangential thoughts, but very significant thoughts for today. So would you like to close then, Kevin, with that?
Yeah, for some reason, there was a quotation from my comedy days running around my head, which was, jokes are like frogs. In order to dissect them, you have to kill them. And the only way I can relate it was, I think when I was being modelled yesterday, someone described what I did as exceptional. And it jarred with me somewhat. Because I think a common factor with people we're modelling is that's their normal. It's not exceptional for them, it's normal. So I guess what I'm thinking is if you're approaching your exemplar with awe, AWE, you may want to set that aside and go for that curious naivety or naive curiosity and set the awe aside.
Yes, it's very childlike, isn't it? Because a child typically wouldn't go, oh, wow, you know, that's amazing. They just take it as it is and explore. So, what resonated with me then, what you're saying, Kevin, was that word that you were using yesterday, fasten, the success. And I thought, I don't have that. It's kind of I have the word, but I don't use it in that way. Okay, thank you, Kevin, for that. And thank you all again. And see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye, Mamta. Or I don't know if you're waving. I never know if somebody's waving at somebody else who's waving, or whether they're waving to say goodbye.
Zoom doesn't have a way of that.
So,
yes,
I can't make it tomorrow, I'm afraid.
Marina.
Oh, oh, I know. Well, maybe I'll try to make enough. Maybe I can make it.
Oh, because you didn't tell the group that. They don't know that.
No, okay. I make it 1 to 1:30, shall we?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. I promise.
Then you can say goodbye to everybody. I mean, I know it won't be a final goodbye to many, but
I know. Okay, 1 to 1:30. I'll be there. I loved every single second. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, do you want me to hang on, or shall I give you a call back?
You can hang on.
You're recording.
Yes. Okay. Do you want this recorded, Rebecca?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll leave it on. Okay.
Right, so I'll hand over host to you, and are you staying? Right, okay, give me a second.
So then I leave now. Thank you. I'll catch up later.
Yes. Have you got any more dates lined up?
No.
No. Reflect. Think about it.
I would rather focus on my business now, and then think about it again after some time.
Yes. Good. Good strategy.
This is being recorded.
This is being recorded. Yes. The whole group will hear. Because it's the same recording. Everyone will hear.
Okay, that's okay. I'm willing to be judged. Yeah, I'm willing to have dates. So
You're willing to be accepted for who you are.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, yeah, I'm ready. I'm single, ready to mingle. I can have dates.
You never know, we might get the proposal out of the recording.
Yep. Yeah, you never know who it lands to and where it reaches to.
Great.
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, oh wait.
I'm not host. Am I host yet?
You should be the host now, yes.
Okay.
You're the host?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay. Right. See you tomorrow.
Yes, thanks, Carolyn.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Right. Hi. I'm recording, aren't I? Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me all right, Sue? Because I've had to go on my phone because my daughter's on the laptop.
It's a little bit staccato, but it's okay so far.
Okay. We'll go with it then.
I'll tell you if it's tricky, but it seems okay. I haven't heard you say enough to be able to know yet, really. Okay.
Well, I'm really to an end, I have to say. I can't believe tomorrow's our last day.
No, 3 weeks. It's amazing, isn't it? Well, for some people, it's been 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a lovely group as well. Everyone's so just, well, like-minded people, so friendly, so receptive and open. It's really nice to meet all those different types of people from all over the world.
I think when you get people who are, investing in their own learning, it's a very strong common bond then. It presupposes a lot of qualities in people. Yes.
Definitely. But I really like now that we have this little group. I think we have the big WhatsApp group anyway, so I just know, I get a feeling that's going to continue, and we'll continue to keep in contact. We've all linked up on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram.
Wow. Fantastic.
Lifelong friendships, I think.
Yes.
But the full group as well, I think, will be really helpful in the next couple of weeks to continue that level.
So there's some groups I know have been going for like years, 9 years, 10 years, and they have an annual or biannual, 2-year meetup, in person. Maybe not that often, but have just continued to be, as you say, lifelong friends and supporters, and have tracked each other's journeys, through some remarkable events in their career and their life.
That'd be lovely, really lovely.
Yes.
Being watched and grown.
Yeah.
And how's it?
Say it again. How's it been?
How has it been?
Absolutely delightful. So enjoyable. I just, I didn't know exactly what to expect with the online training. I absolutely love it. Really love it. So that's been, it wasn't like I expected not to enjoy it, but I didn't know that I'd love it so much. So that's been a delightful discovery.
And delightful in what way?
Well, delightful because I wasn't sure that people could connect in this kind of way that you're describing online, that we could have that same kind of fun online. And in fact, I think in some ways, in different ways, there's a lot of advantages. I feel that people, because we had the time together we have is relatively short compared with having a whole day on a training program, that people are doing a lot of work around that. So they're owning the learning and the research much more so than people would on a live program where they have a day and then they're probably like, "Whew, I need a break." Whereas here, people are sharing things with each other and then reading things. And so I feel there's a much greater personal accountability for the learning because of it, because of the format.
Definitely. You can see that on, which you won't be able to see on the WhatsApp group, is everybody sharing their individual learning, and there's in all different ways, photographs and quotes being shared and things like that. People have definitely taken their own personal accountability for their learning and growing with that. It's lovely.
It is lovely, yeah.
And so I've obviously been on your business practitioner program. That was 10 years ago.
Goodness me, really? Wow.
I found my certificate the other day and couldn't quite believe it was 10 whole years. But I obviously been on that training with you and this one, and in between followed you on Instagram, watched your YouTube videos. And as I said in the email, what I admire is how, in my words, how you speak your truth, and unapologetically so, and all the while being, really calm and centered with that. And they are my interpretation of that. So I'm interested to hear, what, when you heard that from me, what was that like?
When I heard that from you, so in that moment when I heard it, I read it from you. I was certainly drawn to it, drawn to what you said, because it's something that I value. It's something that has evolved for me over time. I was just thinking, like 10 years ago, I probably didn't have that in the same way.
And what is?
Well, that ability to speak the truth of what I'm experiencing. So I think back then, 10 years ago, it would have been kind of much more kind of curtailed, edited than it is today. So it's something that it's a sense that I have of saying what I just feel like saying and want to say that I have now, that's particularly developed for me in the last few years.
And developed in what way?
Well, developed in that, I just feel I do say what I want spontaneously, whereas I think I would have applied a bit more censorship or caution, if you go back in time, than I do today.
And so now, today, what's that like for you?
So do you want to go into a moment? Because I'm talking about it at the moment as opposed to you modelling it.
If you can.
I'm happy to do that, but just to be aware of the distinction.
So, can I invite you to a moment when you have felt able to speak your truth?
Well, I think it's more appropriate you choose a moment, because you're doing the modelling. Because what I might define is different. So it's what you noticed when you spotted that you thought, I want to model that.
So I think a great example was on the programme with the other day with, I think it was Lakshmi, and you you were essentially giving her some feedback, but in a very playful manner, and in a what I would describe as a really sensitive and caring way, that she was able, and she did describe, that she was able to take that learning on board.
Yes.
I can invite you back into that moment.
It's interesting because I have reflected on that moment, because I know she found it hard at first. So, so it wasn't her initial reaction that she found it playful and fun, for example. That was not how she was experiencing. So it was mixed in that sense. However, so I just distinguish between me thinking about it afterwards and at the time. So at the time, I'm just trying to think of the exact things that she was saying to me. Can you remember an example of an exchange that we had, something she said? Or something I said to her?
Well, I distinctly remember your physical movement when you were relaying that feedback,
Yes.
feedback, right? When she moved away from the screen with things, you did that a lot.
Yes,
And
yeah, that's right. Because in the moment I was experiencing her like going away from me, literally like going away, not maintaining herself in the conversation, which from a modeling point of view, it was like, you know, it's like being with somebody and suddenly they're not there, and being with somebody is key in the modeling. So I felt that, and having felt it, then I was noticing what she was doing when she was doing that, and that's such an important piece, to stay present. You know, so I recognized that she was, you know, thinking about herself in those moments, as opposed to just staying with the process. So then, you know, question is, and this is a very kind of easy way to give the feedback without having to find words for it, is to show somebody what they're doing, to mirror it. So that's a very provocative strategy, which I kind of don't think about too much consciously. It's almost like I can make sense of it by doing it as well. And doing it playfully is potentially a way of the person getting an awareness of what they're doing for themselves.
And you described when you were watching Lakshmi that you felt it.
Yes, like, you know, she's asking me a question, and then kind of I'm in the moment, and then she would sit back and reflect on it. So I'm left, you know, having been in the state, having been in the experience, now waiting for a next question or a response from her. So it disrupted my experience, my remembered experience. So I needed her to stay with me. So I wasn't thinking, you know, because I would be distracted thinking, what's Lakshmi doing? Unless I just kept myself in that state.
And keeping yourself in that state is like what?
Well, to keep myself in that state would be, I'd be managing the modelling process rather than her. You know, it's like to stay associated into what I'm remembering. And most people are probably not going to do that. So it's more useful, I believe, I was more useful at that time for me to meta-comment on what was happening, rather than just be an ideal model who stays, because she's not going to get that from everybody. So, you know, weighing up, shall I just be in the state so she can model this thing, or shall I give her learning about modeling? Well, that's more generative learning. So I did that. I didn't just cooperate. I responded to what she was doing.
So there's a moment where you weigh it up.
Yes, and I'll usually opt for the meta position in those circumstances. And there may be times when I would stay in it if I think somebody just needs a good experience of modelling, and then I'll do some things to cooperate with that, so that they perhaps get a, you know, kind of leg up with the process of whatever it is.
And so when you're in that meta position, what's that like?
Well, that's a generalized question you just asked me, as opposed to a specific one for the moment. So just recognize so I'm doing it for you now, I'm doing the same thing. So I'm recognizing, hey, now you're asking me to analyze it overall, over time, rather than what's happening in this moment or at that moment. So I've just done it right now. So what's happening in that moment is I go, oh, hang on, something's shifted here. And I recognize I've started to move into my head to search for an answer. And I think, no, that's not appropriate. That's not modeling. And so given that's the bigger goal, is for you to learn about the modeling. So I make a meta comment, which is what I'm doing now. And that's, you know, that's very present in my thinking, because I recognize that's a theme for the group right now, to be able to distinguish between when you're asking somebody to talk about themselves as opposed to model. Very different. So modeling me is keeping me in a particular moment in time and tracking it, tracking what's happening. Asking me to talk about what's happening is me going meta, but that's not you modeling.
Yes.
Unless you're modeling how I meta comment, if you see, it gets a bit incestuous after a while, but you see what I mean.
So in that moment with Lakshmi, when you felt and weighed things up, and
you'd be better off asking the present tense, or use the present moment with you, because you want me to associate into it. So yeah. Like, when you do that, go, so here you are, you're with Lakshmi, she's saying this and you're doing this, so you do it in the present tense, so that I associate fully into it. And if you do it in the past tense, I could still associate into it, but you increase the chances that I will dissociate.
So here you are with me.
Yes. Doing the very thing.
And you felt?
Well, with you, I'm tracking the patterns that you're using. So I'm noticing as you engage with me, I'm noticing which tense you're in. I'm noticing whether you're asking me about something over time, whether you're asking me a generalized question, or whether you are concentrating on a moment in time and tracking me through that.
And so what's happening for you right now?
I was wondering what you're going to do next. So I'm watching and listening.
And what happens next?
I wait. Well, I am waiting. I wouldn't say I always wait. And that's again about how you've asked that question. Like, what happens next is a generalized question, as if something always happens next that's might be the same. And what's happening now? You know, because it's something has moved on, is I'm still moving forward in time. And I'm, you know, and I'm with it, I'm in it.
In it in what way?
Staying present with what's happening.
And what's that like?
What's it like? What's this like? Well, it's very concentrated. So it's like, and I've often described it like this, it's like switching the antennae on, particularly, you know, strengthening the signal. So I track lots of times in moments like this, I go, right, you know, it's like full on to notice what's happening.
Strengthening that antennae.
It's like strengthening the signal.
Strengthening the signal.
Yes, so that I'm really attuned to what's happening. I'll be attuned to what's happening a lot of time, but not to the same degree. as when the emphasis is on this, as it is right now.
And so right now, as you are strengthening that signal, what's that like?
I'm paying attention to every reaction I have to what you're doing. And I'm going with what you're asking, but noticing when there's a shift in me. And then going, now what happened then that caused that shift, so that I can give you that feedback. So what's that?
So it's gone off where I wanted it to go, which is
right. Well,
go where I want it to go. I should just go where you're going.
No, you shouldn't, because you're doing the modelling. It's your stuff, and so that's always a challenge, because people will just go where they go, and it's like being able to bring them back on track to what you want. If what you're getting is not what you want, then it's like, how do you do that? So learning how to do that. So that's a very important part of modelling, is guiding people back to the track that you're after.
I suppose what's got me is that I've seen you do what you do in a training format for a long time. So I get your reason behind, or I think I get your reason behind why you're doing it, which is to give us the learning. I suppose what I'm interested in knowing is whether that way of being, goes into your personal life as well.
Right.
And therefore, when you example, I haven't got one because I don't have that with you.
So that way of being what in your?
Speaking, again, my words, speaking your truth unapologetically whilst remaining calm and centered.
It does go into my private life, although I think I'd be more likely to perhaps zip it in my private life, because there aren't the same permissions in private life as there are in a training program. So people have come for learning, and therefore there's a contract for that. I still do it. It's interesting because a friend of mine here says, she said, what did she say? She said, she's talking about the fact that this is my business. She said, the only difference is that you can be rude to people. And she said it quite lovingly, that you see things in people and you just tell them. She said, whereas we might not. And I think she did say something about being rude. You'll be rude to them, whereas we might not. But actually, she would, in fact, which is interesting.
Well, it's, in a sense, doing what she's spotting in you by telling you.
Oh, exactly. I mean, she says the most outrageous things in my perception. So I do, and I probably don't realise always how that's being experienced by others, that it's different, to perhaps what they would like her to comment on that, although she does do stuff. But the fact she sees me doing or hears me doing something that is clearly different to the norm, I would say, in some way. And I just think it's like, I'm just being me. There are times when I notice things I wouldn't say about them. There's just times when I think I don't have that right, or this person might not receive it, in a way, or they haven't chosen to hear it.
So do you have a recent example of when you chose to say it?
Chose to say it or chose not to say it?
Chose to say it.
Chose to say it.
What was that laugh?
it was actually with a guy who I might be going out for lunch with on Saturday, and he did something, and I was like, what? What did I say to him? Because a friend of mine, Leslie, who was on the course last week, we were talking about being provocative with potential dates, you know, and some guys would just turn off, you know, they just don't know how to handle it. And we were saying that's a good filter. They need to be eliminated. Because we don't want ones like that. So I did say something, and she'd said something to a guy that was, oh, I know, well, this was her, but we were talking. Some guy had said, I'm looking for somebody to better myself. And she said, well, I'm not going to better you. If you can't better yourself, you know, I'm not actually interested. That's the kind of thing. And I had a similar example, I think. So in that situation, I think with potential dates of guys, Leslie and I both go for provocative. And that's saying what we think, because we think it's important as a way of filtering out the chaff.
I love that.
If they can't take the humour, it's like, no thanks, not interested.
Absolutely. And what's important about that, that taking the humour?
Because humour, that kind of humour is about speaking truth. You know, that's speaking truth, but doing so, you know, with a kind of twinkle in the eye, slightly flirtatiously, you know, provocatively, but speaking the truth rather than trying to make things right. That's the difference. Because I think if you get into trying to make things right, you take that on as a role, you know, and that's not what I want.
And so that twinkle in the eye, what's that like for you?
Oh, that's fun. That really is fun. Yeah, because it's seeing the funny side of life, the amusement in just the crazy things that we do. And it does come out sometimes when somebody's particularly serious, you know, you think, oh, for goodness sake, lighten up. So it's kind of an invitation for someone to join in with that lightness. And see if and to see if they take that invitation, or whether it just goes over their head. Yeah, okay, it's one of those. No.
And that lightness is like what?
It's seeing the humorous side of life. You know, looking at rather than taking things too seriously. Some things do need to be taken seriously, but it's also, I think, particularly finding the amusement in things that we don't need to do, you know, like an earnestness in something, or you know, getting frustrated with something. It's like, it's a way of letting go of unproductive states.
And in the serious moments, and you talked about choosing to say or not say. So in the more serious moments, what happens there for you?
It might not be serious inside me, but I still might choose not to say something, because I think it wouldn't, you know, I'm not sure how it would, in the social setting, whether it would be received, whether it might just shift, you know, the whole state of the social situation. And that's not the goal. You know, the goal is just to go along with people the way that they are. So they didn't come to learn about their patterns, you know, even though it's tempting to tell them sometimes, especially if it's affecting me. You know, that it's a question of, okay, how do I handle this? And handle it in a way that maintains the overall ambience, if the ambience is okay.
And in those moments when it's not you, and you do speak up, what's that like?
Well, you're asking me generalized again. In those moments, as soon as you go plural, you've gone out of modeling. in a way. Whereas if
So
you say, in this moment, if you've got a moment, you're in this moment, what's happening, and then what happens. And on the basis that it's very likely that how I handle or anybody handles that moment will give you clues about how they handle other moments. But you're getting a specific response rather than them thinking what they do generally. And you're presupposing a generalized response if you talk about plural situations.
Yeah.
So if I say to you, so what's going on now as you're looking up? And that laughter, what's that?
Yes,
that's
I'm
different.
thinking.
You're thinking.
I'm thinking how to get to what I need. How to get you in a.
How to get me.
How to get you in a moment to get what I need.
You probably are getting what you need.
Yes. It'd be good to look back
Yes.
through the recording.
So it's like you thinking it should come in a particular way, but it's coming in another way. That's often the case. You think it's going to happen in a particular way, and it happens another way, but you're still getting it. You're getting it in action.
Yes, very true.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to pause there for?
Yeah, let's pause.
And you can reflect and look back. It'll be on. Are you okay for this to be tagged on the end of the group recording? Okay.
Yeah, they can all.
Right. They might just, get teed off by the time they get to the end of it if they watch. There's only some people ask for recordings anyway, but it'll be part of the overall thing.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Probably.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.